from could you invent? I was just wondering. Could you invent a new language for Doctor Who? Presumably, then in which case you can cuss and swear to your heart's content, and no one will know what's going on.
I wrote a nice language for the Jadoon. There were those big rhinos.
Oh, I remember.
Go, flow, no, bo, joke, go, talk.
So that could be saying anything.
That could be filthy.
How dare you?
Well, of course it is. What a terrible thing to suggest.
Andrew's asking, what about the Doctor's daughter? Will she return?
The lovely Georgia Moffat. Jenny, no plans from me too, I have to say. I've spoiled it, I should say, maybe.
I'd like to see her back.
Yes. All right,
potential's there.
Peter asking, how can the Time Lords be killed off anyway when you have time travel? They would always be alive in the past.
Yes, but they must have been killed by a very clever time-travelling genetic bomb. I like to imagine. You can't catch me on this stuff.
I just get the feeling you've been asked this before. Why are the Cybermen such wimps? Is this inquiry? When they came up against the Daleks, everyone thought they were in for a good scrap, only to be disappointed. The Daleks wiped the floor with them.
Well, of course they did. Because the Cybermen are only humans in a steel suit, so they're essentially their technology is with a few added laser beams human. Daleks are conquerors of the universe. There's actually no contest about this. Of course they'd win.
Mick O'Hare's joined us now. He's from the New Scientist. We've spoken to him before. Why don't penguins' feet freeze? And other exciting questions. And there's another one out now, which is do polar bears get lonely? How you doing, Mick?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Now, because the science of Doctor Who, I don't know what the readers of New Scientist make of it. You can just create it. Change the laws of science. Who cares?
Yes. It's sort of nonsense science.
What do the scientific community discuss about Doctor Who?
I can tell you that New Scientist in the editorial office, it's very, very popular, Doctor Who, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan as a child. And I was going to bring. If I'd known that Russell was going to be on, I'd have brought my well-thumped copy of Genesis of the Daleks, which is falling to pieces.
He's
I kind of know word for word, actually.
Was that's the book that you wrote?
No, that's that's Davos' first appearance from 1974.
It was a kid's paperback, in effect.
Classic, absolute classic.
You've got that, Ben, haven't you?
Somewhere, possibly. I no comment.
But the science, it always sounds sort of half there. When the Doctor is explaining something, it's great. I'm with him for the first sentence. This is just you're just making the rest clearly making it all up. But it sounds so impressive.
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of because you've got to go with the premise of the show. It's like if I was writing that Apollo 13 film, then you'd have to get your science absolutely right because the whole story is about exactly what happens. And with Doctor Who, the premise is a box that's bigger on the inside than on the outside that travels through time and space. So it starts with fantasy science right from the start.
It's science fiction. Fiction is right there in the word, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think we're really arrogant about science sometimes. It's like people go, "Oh, that's not how a black hole actually works." And you sit there, we haven't got a clue about how a black hole actually works. It's like we'll discover. So in 200 years' time, we'll look back on our science now and laugh and clutch our sides. I am planning to be here, obviously. By the way, I said that. Exactly, aging in a jar. But I do think there's a certain amount of arrogance in saying you can't do that. Do whatever you like.
If we establish, as I think everyone has done, that there are no clues to be had about what happens to Doctor Who beyond what's already been announced. Could you explain? And actually, we'll ask both of you: what is it that makes a good Doctor? So that this is something for us, everyone, to bear in mind in terms of both now and in the future. What are the characteristics that have to be there?
I think the simple answer is a good actor, actually, because you can do anything with that role.
That's too disappointing. I don't want that. I want a proper answer.
Well, go on then. What should we say?
Well, good actors. There's a list of thousands and thousands.
Well, I'm not sure it is actually. I think to find an actor who has the gravitas that someone like David Tennant or Christopher Eccleston has, actually, I think there were probably just a handful of actors who could take on the role. I think when David eventually decides to leave, it's going to be, I think, quite difficult to replace him.
And it's hard. It's just the most sparkling part. The marvellous thing about the Doctor is that he's an artist and a scientist. He can sit and talk scientist with Leonardo da Vinci and talk art with Leonardo da Vinci, and he's romantic and lonely. And you think of an adjective, he can fit that adjective. He's the ultimate character in the. Apart from evil, that's just about the only area he won't go into. But he's full of passion and lusts and carefree abandon. It's just wonderful.
Is it very difficult when you've lived with this night and day for such a long period of time to, you have characters, you develop characters who you are very fond of, you're very affectionate to. Maybe you love the character that you have created in the way it's been represented. And you know that the right thing is, because you've decided, is that they've got to go. That's it. That's the end. Maybe they die, maybe they just disappear or something happens. Is that actually difficult? Or when it comes to it, Are you quite ruthless in thinking, the show needs it, that's going to happen, very sorry?
I am ruthless in the end because a good ending is as good as a good character. It's, if you're writing out Catherine Tate as Donna or something, the scenes were just about the most powerful she ever had, and she was brilliant in them. So I think you're always like that with characters you created. You don't love them to the extent of wanting to cuddle them and be with them. You're absolutely ruthless, and writing their death scene, for example, can be the most brilliant thing.
At the same time, Russell has emailed me at 3 o'clock in the morning, having just written those death scenes, and admits to crying, sitting, typing, and
Big
crying.
time.
It's,
Yeah.
quite a big deal.
And are you writing for yourself, Russell, or do you instinctively know what that audience at sort of 6:30, 7 o'clock, wherever it is that the BBC in their wisdom decide to put the programme, and I know scheduling's been an issue over the years, do you think about how the kids will react?
You do, actually, yes, and it's an unusual answer for a writer. Most writers to that question will always say, no, it's the story, you just think of the story, never mind the audience. And Doctor Who's a really unusual show. It's unusual in that it was created by a focus group. Way back in 1963, a bunch of people sat down and designed a show that would fit that slot on a Saturday night. It wasn't one creator walking in saying, I've had a brilliant idea. It was really put together by committee. And really well designed, it just goes to show, despite everyone's cynicism, that sort of thing can work sometimes. And so, and it's always carried that with it. Actually, that awareness of its audience is inbuilt into the show. So yes, I do. Not just children either. When I came into it, it's very much women I wanted to attract to it, because traditionally women aren't so attracted to science fiction. So I very positively wanted to get them watching, and succeeded. So yeah, it's a very demographic aware show, and it seems to work.
And are you staying with the spin-off shows, or are you severing ties with them?
I will, if they continue. I feel sort of I love those shows, and I feel honour bound to the casts with those, with Liz Slade in the Sarah Jane Adventures, and with John and Eve in Torchwood. When we created them, I sort of said, I'll be here for you. So, unless they want rid of me, which is possible, I'd probably stick with those, yeah.
So what do we see? That they may well be carrying on. What are you going to be turning the full weight and majesty of your attention to, Ross?
The word majesty. Something I don't know. I literally don't know when I will start having conversations with people in the new year, because I still be on Doctor Who till about next May. So, and beyond that, so something 9 o'clock-ish, something dirty, something awful, something gay, probably.
I kind of thought it might be like that. And does that mean that all those kind of pressures build up with the restriction? I mean, I think actually the restriction of working at 7, sometimes that then becomes an extremely creative place to be, because you have these restrictions. So will this be Russell Unbound, do you think?
It might be horrific and untransmittable and obscene, I think, and then I'll go and write something proper. But I don't know.
What do you think you'll be doing, Ben?
I think he needs a holiday, first and foremost. And then, I'd like to see a sort of a 10 o'clock Channel 4 sort of drama again, because Russell hasn't done that for a while. Something dangerous, something that gets complaints, I think.
What's your favourite episode, mate?
Ever.
Oh, that's hard.
Oh no, it was the last episode of Genesis of the Daleks where the Doctor said, had he the right to destroy the Daleks, and that was the first time I ever thought that you just didn't blow them up. There may be a reason why you shouldn't blow them up, and it actually made me question lots of different things for the first time, because I wasn't so old. I can't remember how old I was at the time, but I remember thinking it's not just a story; it's actually making me question something about how I would feel, because I would have blown the Daleks up on the spot, and then Tom Baker suddenly said, "Have I the right to destroy the Daleks because of all the people around the universe who it pulls together to defend themselves against the Daleks?" And that really made a big difference to me.
It's like the whole Zen and philosophy of Who.
I suppose, yeah.
And in its reincarnated state, since Russell got his hands on it?
Gosh, I guess I was willing Davros to return. So I suppose recently, and I kind of always thought he would, even though, you couldn't find out about it. I kind of always thought he would. So I suppose when he finally returned, and I thought that was the culmination of all the great episodes that have come before in the recent past.
We could talk for a lot longer, but you have other things to do, and Mick wants to talk about his book, and we've got lots of things to do. But Russ, it's been fantastic to have you on. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Sam.
And Benjamin, good to meet you. Thanks very much. What do you do next?
Well, me and Russell are still emailing. We tried to stop for a week, and then it was just too weird not to. So maybe we'll get a second book out of it, I don't know.
Right. Okay. So this depends how this one does, but this is where we're going to see your work again, as you constantly email at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I'm now Russell's professional stalker.
He's stuck with me.
It's my job title.
Gentlemen, thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate you coming in. Thanks very much indeed.